Because when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was in my room and I was playing Fantasy Drive-Thru. Everyone know what Fantasy Drive-Thru is? No? Okay. Fantasy Drive-Thru is kind of a game where you pretend you're in a car, you pretend to go to a drive-thru, you pretend to order some food and pay for it and eat it. But I was in my room playing Fantasy Drive-Thru and I heard my mum calling me, Richard! Richard! So I thought, bloody hell, you know, better finish eating and then I go see what she wants. Richard! Richard! So I ran across the corridor, I ran to her room, I opened the door and there was my mum. Naked. Riding my dad like some kind of sweaty cowgirl. I'd like to use this moment to point out, however, that me and my dad share the same first name. This wasn't some kind of pre-orgasmic cry of bliss for my mum's youngest son, right? But I was confused, right? Because he's always been known as Dad to me. Dad, 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 Dad. You know, so I said to my mum, can't you just call him Dad? It might be a little bit weird to start off with, but surely anything's better than the situation we find ourselves in, you know? Right? But you know, I was young, so I was inquisitive, so I thought I'll check this situation out, see what I can find out. So I looked at my dad, and I looked down his chest and down his stomach, right, to his penis, right? And it was massive! I thought to myself, brilliant! I'm going to have one of those one day, right? And I told this story to a mate of mine a few years later, and he says, you do realise that penis size isn't necessarily hereditary. I was like, fuck off, of course it is. And no, it's not. You know, but a few years later, when I was about 12, my little brother was born, and my parents kind of went through the same thing as naming him as me. They were going to call me Sean, they didn't, they called me Richard. That happened, right? So I was like, you've got to just call him Sean. You can't call him Richard, right? Mainly because I didn't want him to find me in the same position I found my parents in, right? Like on a number of levels. One, I didn't really want to be straddling my dad. Two, actually I'm not too sure about my mum. That always gets a no, right? The only time that hasn't got a groan was the first week of this run when she was here, everyone saw her and changed their fucking minds. Right?